I didn't get a chance to hold a press conference with you all yesterday. You know, usually Wednesdays, it's show and tell day. And so some of you I got to see a little bit later on yesterday. But I thought it was important because we want to share this with you. And I said that last week I was going to share with you our continued effort to reduce violence in our city. I've shared with you our violence reduction program. When I first came into office, I gave you an update on our violence reduction, but I can tell you that violence in the city is out of control. And so what I've said to my police department, my commissioner, we must do everything we can. We've already hit something like 303 murders in this city, which is just totally unacceptable. And I want everybody in every neighborhood in this city to know that I am extremely concerned and focused on reducing violence in Baltimore City. Everyone who lives in our city, every child who goes to school in our city, every parent, every grandparent, every visitor deserves to feel safe when they come to this city. We've got a lot of great things going on in Baltimore, and we're pushing our city forward. But violence is just no longer acceptable. It hasn't been from day one of this administration. As you well know, when I first walked into office, I took very seriously putting our consent decree in place. I told you all that I spent 16 hours a day every single day for over 60 days to make sure that we put it in place because we knew that it would help us to transform our police department. And we've continued to work in every corridor of the city to reduce violence. I told you all that I would add 6,000 new lights to the city, and we have. But we also know that we've got 70,000 lights in our city, and we're going to change them out to LED lights so that we can make our city brighter. It is important. People need to feel comfortable to walk to neighborhood stores and restaurants and so forth in this city. Businesses deserve to feel that they can open their doors and have their clients come into their businesses and they feel safe, that when they leave that they won't be attacked or they won't be hurt. That is not Baltimore, and we know that we can do better, and we are doing that by working together. I said to many of you all who were in this room that it is about collaboration. I know we're changing the culture of how government works or should work. And so what I said to my departments and my agencies, that we have to collaborate. We have to work across agencies. That silos must be broken. You know, that you don't wait until you get a notice from a council person or someone else as it relates to a problem in a neighborhood or a community, especially the neighborhoods that we've been focused on in terms of violence eruption in our neighborhoods. You know, so what we've done is not just, as you all remember, my call to action groups, where still 30 individuals work with me every single day in the city and meet with me every other week to talk about what they're doing. You know, individuals who work across the city with young people who get them up on Saturday mornings to help clean up our city. And for that, we're grateful. Individuals who have been working to put together programs for young people after school. And so we've opened up our rec centers in certain areas of the city for later hours so that we can wrap our hands around our young people. But this collaboration that I'm talking about is not by just sitting on the phone and talking to each other or waiting for someone to give you a piece of paper about a boarded up house or an alley that needs to be cleaned up. It's joining our police commissioner and our police department every morning at 8 a.m., every single morning at 8 a.m., you know, to talk about what's going on in our neighborhoods and our communities and how do we fix it immediately. For example, a bench that was sitting on Pennsylvania Avenue, I don't know who put it there. What I did know was it didn't belong to us. And I watched it sit there for a few days, and in this particular meeting, I said, whose bench is it? Doesn't belong to the city. It was gone before I got home that evening. When we talk about alleys and boarded houses in our city, we get to sit across from each other and have that conversation, and the problem is taken care of. When we talk about stores that are running on generators or selling products that they shouldn't sell, or liquor stores that are disruptors in our neighborhoods, you might get a visit from the liquor department, the health department, the fire department, every agency that has anything to do with making sure that we have safe venues inside of our neighborhoods. So I'm excited about this collaboration. I've watched it for the last few days. I believe that it will work. It is working. But more importantly, everything that we can do, and I've said this to you also, that when we go through our budget process this year, every agency has a responsibility to contribute to the violence reduction in this city. And I've said this to the philanthropic community. We're going to expand safe streets because it's important, but every city in this neighborhood deserves to have safe streets. And so I'm looking to build a pool of about $10 million to help us do that, because we want people coming to our city. We've got to increase the population of our city. Young people think that this is one of the coolest cities in America to live in. They're flocking to our city. They're renting apartments. They're living in Baltimore. But we have the fastest two growing populations in this city, 18 to 34, 55 years of age and older. Our seniors deserve to feel safe in this city as well. So again, I'm excited about this effort, and I'm going to call on our commissioner to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon. The delivery of meaningful government services that improve a neighborhood's quality of life enhances public safety. For too long, the police department has disproportionately represented the government in areas challenged by decades of violence. We need to be there, and we are, but we need support, and we're getting that from the mayor. The strategic delivery of government services to defined geographies plagued by violence reduces crime, and we are seeing early signs that the mayor's violence reduction initiative is doing that in our VRI areas. During a crisis, a crime crisis, a public safety crisis, the entire government has to literally and physically insert itself into the problem. So that 8 a.m. huddle that the mayor spoke of is a real thing where leaders, humans, decision makers come together and they review the past 24 hours of violence and they make plans for what we're going to do for the next 24 hours until we meet again. We also go over meaningful accomplishments that have been performed based on the last meeting. And I've told the mayor a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I do mean it. It's the most productive meeting that I've been associated with in a long, long time. And I can't thank the leadership enough, and I'll inevitably leave someone out, but the huddle consists of these players at the direction of the mayor: the police department, the fire department, the Department of Transportation, Liquor Board, Public Works, Rec and Parks, the Planning Department, the Mayor's Office of Employment Development is there, the Mayor's Office of Sustainable Solutions is there, the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, Department of Housing, the Law Department, Health Department, School Police, and City Stat Smart. We all come together for the singular purpose of violence reduction every morning, and I can't thank the mayor enough for her vision and her leadership.
And at 4 p.m., you all, we come back together again by phone, just to check on what we're implementing and making sure that we're doing everything that we say that we're going to do. The other thing that I think is important to point out, and I've said this too in meetings, that this has been a police department also that has been underinvested in for decades. I shared with you all that in 1998, they started putting computers in cars. We just got a $2 million grant to do that. When I think about license plate readers and all those things that have been in other jurisdictions for decades, we're just getting those things. And for the first time since 2004, we passed our attrition rate. We have 184 individuals who are now in our police department at one stage or another, but that's a year's worth of training. We also took our Bloomberg team and had them focus on what was the problem in terms of hiring police officers. It's not that people don't want to be police officers in Baltimore City, the process takes too long. 6 months to get through the process before you even enter the academy. We've got that down now to 30 days. That will make a difference in terms of what we see in terms of police officers on our streets. We're currently at about 2,500 police officers. At our peak, we were at 3,200. And so we're still a ways away. We have identified about 100 positions inside of the police department that we will be civilianizing, which will add an additional 100 individuals to our police department. Let me now call on Michael Braverman. He's with the Department of Housing and Community Development. Where are you, Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say the Department of Housing and Community Development is and always has been in this crime fight, but at the direction of the mayor, where we are working in ways particular to us. There's a bunch of things that we bring to the table, but we use our regulatory authority to close businesses that are persistent nuisances and multifamily dwellings that are persistent nuisances in these VRI areas. We are going daily with the fire department and our other partners, inspecting problem businesses, taking appropriate action. We are working through the weekend on evening shifts, on businesses that are open after hours. We are hitting the VRIs daily, sanitation issues that arise. We're combating dumping in those areas. These are all things that contribute to the criminal activity and contribute to the general sense of malaise in the area and feeling of being neglected. So we are on that, Madam Mayor. We are on that regularly, and we're identifying the locations for strategic demolition as well, which improves the sight lines and the ability to improve public safety by altering the built environment. So we are there on a daily basis. We'll continue to do so.
Because you know I'll text you, right?
I know you will, Mayor. Thank you.
Director Rudy Chow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the DPW's responsibility is to clean the city. As you all know, that our job is to ensure the city is clean. So in the case, for example, high weed and grass, so we want to make sure we go there, take care of it, so we can get the police a better line of sight in terms of their violence reduction efforts and so on and all that. Now, we're certainly finding better ways to secure when we go on there, board up any kind of vacant homes and all that to ensure that we don't have intruders going there unexpectedly and so on and all that. So we are doing everything we can to be part of this team in a collaborative manner. Thank you.
Director Reginald Moore.
In response and in support of the mayor's multi-agency violence reduction initiative, Recreation and Parks was excited to offer a program that we call BALT. BALT stands for Business, Art, Leisure, and Team Building. And what our role in this was to, starting on Friday nights, we extended the hours of our rec centers to 11 p.m. On Saturdays, we'll open our rec centers as early as 5. The locations that we're opening these centers on Saturdays were Greenmount, C.C. Jackson, Rita Church, Robert C. Marshall, Lillian Jones, James McHenry, and Christopher's Attic. And we're excited to say today that in our first weekend of opening this, we saw over 1,000 teens and young adults that came into our program on that Friday and Saturday night. And we will continue our request and our support to improve our role with crime reduction. And I have to say, the police department has worked with us to make sure that they're there not only as the kids are coming in, throughout, as well as when the kids leave at the end of the night. And I want to thank Commissioner Davis for that. And I'll close with one other note. At Robert C. Marshall on Saturday, we had 5-on-5 basketball, and it was exciting to walk in and see not just police officers coming in, but being engaged and active in that activity. So we will continue our role in this quest.
Jason Perkins. Come.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner Davis. My name is Jason Perkins Cohen. I'm the Director of Employment for the city. We are very proud partners of this initiative. We understand very well the importance that a job makes to reducing violence in our city. In addition to attending the 8 a.m. briefings every day and the 4 p.m. check-ins every day, we've pulled staff out of our centers to go into the community on walks with our collaborative partners. In the first 6 days, we've met with nearly 700 residents to talk to them about job opportunities and to put them on their pathway. I want to be clear that this 700 is in addition to the number of people who come into our centers. So this is a new 700. We think we're just scratching the surface, and we're very excited about the possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to have our school CEO say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it has been a pleasure really to be part of the city's effort in reducing crime. We've had the opportunity to be part of the team that is partnering with Commissioner Davis, with City Police, with MTA Police. Our school police is part of those regular 8 a.m. briefings. We work very closely in sharing information with Baltimore City Police. We have increased the presence of school police in major student transition hubs throughout the city, and we even have deployed school police in areas like Federal Hill to be able to monitor student activity during school hours. This is all in addition to the work that we are doing inside of city schools around helping our young people find better approaches to conflict resolution, finding ways of making connections that are more positive connections after school hours. And again, we are really proud to be part of this citywide initiative. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions?
So what does this look like? At 8 a.m. every morning, you all get together in a room, or is it a conference call?
So,
Like, how does this work?
we'll invite you. No,
That'd be great.
it's bodies. It's bodies at the police department. The state's attorney is adding additional folks as well. to this effort. So this is face-to-face, so nobody can say, well, I didn't get the notice, I didn't know about that house, I didn't know about that bar, I didn't know that those folks were standing on the corner. We even pull up the sites that we're talking about, you know, because we have the video system to do that. But these are folks sitting across from each other. When I ask where the lights, what's with the lights in a particular area, I can turn to the transportation person and says, you know, can we get that fixed tomorrow? So this is actual contact with each other. And as I said to the agency heads, when you're not there, don't send me somebody who doesn't have the power to make a decision, because we're making decisions right there at the moment that we're sitting across from each other.
And just to follow up, how long do these take? And when you're looking at a list of, how many times has this happened so far? When did this
It's been a week.
Okay, and so how long do these meetings last on average so
On
far?
an average, about an hour.
And so you guys are just going down a list of certain complaints or criminal issues, large or small?
Or things that the police department may have noticed that a agency may not be aware of. An area that is dark, a bar that is, you know, overcrowded with folks, a building that it has not been boarded up and drug dealers are stashing stuff in there. So this is face-to-face contact. The 4 o'clock meeting is a phone conversation.
How many people were in this 8 o'clock meeting?
Ooh, what is it?
30, 40.
I think about 30 people at least.
30 people?
At least.
the department.
Different agencies, yes, at least 30 to 40.
Obviously, with the violence right now, teens getting into trouble is a big thing that we've been talking about. What more can be done with that specifically, not so much as maybe pointing the finger at police or judges, but specifically within city schools? What else can be done? I don't know if Dr. Sanfelice can touch on that a little bit in terms of making sure these teens are held accountable, or what else is going on, checking on them if they're not showing up to school.
Sure.
What else can be done if we can go into some more specifics? I know you said city police have been deployed a little bit more.
Right, so part of what school police works with city police to identify is actually, one, where's the crime taking place, right? So where and when. So when we have, for example, particular hubs, one of the things we're working on that school police has done is actually having principals and school personnel be part of the patrols of those areas, because frankly, they have relationships with young people. What that enables us to do is then make the school time connections. As I referenced earlier, we have a heavy focus on making sure that at the school site, we have increased supports for, frankly, de-escalation and conflict resolution. So that's one piece, and that's a particular type of incident. In other incidents, and the chief commissioner can speak to this as well, there are some young people who are part of criminal behavior who, frankly, are not even part of the school system anymore, right? So one of the things that we're working on is paying far closer attention, for example, to our chronic absenteeisms, right? So when we know that a young person is chronically absent, how are we deploying our student support services to get ahead of a young person who might have been absent for a longer period of time and might be a candidate? I don't want to imply that kids that are having trouble with absenteeism are all engaged in criminal behavior, but where we see that crossroads, really getting ahead of it and being proactive. And I think one of the most important pieces is we are identifying who are the young people in each school, right, who are probably most vulnerable for being also recruited for criminal activity. Like if we know young people are going through something and we have as a school the ability to identify them for that end, how are we proactively getting them connected through the school to the services that are? So I think part of what's great about the sharing of information in the meetings that the mayor is referencing is we had the opportunity to triangulate data. And what we know is that the profile of young people who are engaged or a part of criminal behavior, we also have large numbers of young people who are the victims of criminal behavior. So this is not about every young person you see is engaged in criminal behavior. We have young people that are victims themselves. Mm-hmm. So part of the beauty of this kind of collaboration is we get far more specific data, and we're targeting our proactive identification of young people using the data that we're getting around the table.
Dr. Sanfelice, do you feel that city schools police are strapped either financially or physically because you don't have enough people to get this done?
Well, I think what we've focused on, is how to strategically deploy school police in ways that are supportive to the work of city police, right? So that's why the sharing of information is important. Sure, would we like additional resources, just like the city police would. But what we have found is when we can target where we have challenging areas, like those 8 hubs that I referenced earlier, where young people are transitioning, we're not deploying school police all over the city, we're targeting those 8 transportation hubs. Because we know, for example, in Mondawmin, 7,000 young people come through Mondawmin every day, right? And not all of them are engaged in criminal behavior. Sometimes it's just they are waiting for a bus to come. And so having that kind of deployment means that we're using the existing staff that we have differently. We're not focused, yes, it would always be nice to have more, but our real question that the mayor's asked us to really refer back on is, are we being as strategic as we could? Those are the changes.
And then with that, you can also, you can blend that with your regular police department, your MTA police,
Right.
especially when you're talking about those hubs,
Mayor, why do you
and the
think-
sheriffs.
Sorry. Why do you think that expanding safe streets is the thing to do and to help make an impact on it?
Because we have data that already shows that in those areas where Safe Streets is working, that it is reducing violence. So that's why I say it needs to be expanded and employed in different areas around the city where violence exists. Or, I just think everybody deserves to have a safe street. And that does not necessarily just mean the Safe Streets program itself. What we're doing is about creating safe streets throughout this city.
And did I hear you say you're gonna put $10 million in next year's budget?
I said we're looking to raise $10 million from the private sector.
Okay.
The city's
Private
budget,
sector to fund.
the city's budget is overdone as it is. As you well know, the city came to the rescue of the school system, going into its own reserves. So we're looking, when I say partnerships, private and public partnerships, it's real. You can't sit on the sidelines and complain about where we are and not be a part of the solution. So I'm asking the philanthropic community, the business community, to help be a part of the solution. And that is to help us raise money to expand safe streets so that everybody coming to, everybody living, every neighborhood, every neighbor, every person in the city feels safe.
And the goal is to raise that money for the Safe Streets program as we know it as part of the health department.
Not as part of the health department.
Well, the Safe Streets program though.
Right.
Right.
The monies will go into the Safe
So
Streets
that's
program.
their budget's right now about 2 million, right?
I think it's
So
about
that's a
2.4
significant
million
increase if you were to reach that.
if we were to reach
So
that.
your goal in the perfect world for that program would be how many more sites and where would they be and?
Well, we haven't defined all of that. I just know that there are other areas in the city that deserve attention as well.
And then, is there any talk of embedding agency people in the various police districts?
Well, they are, absolutely. I mean, that's what this is all about,
Right.
Because,
So you're meeting at headquarters at 8 AM, but are people also, I guess, do they have desks in northeast and west and, or?
we don't want them at desk. We
Right,
want them
okay.
in the community. That's what we're doing. I mean, these are all agency folks. There's no other place that they can be at 8 AM but at the police department. Every agency, they don't need a desk. They need to share information, and they need to exercise their responsibility to do what needs to be done. Okay, thank you.